Peace family, Vie Darling, the Cosmic Queen, and your Intergalactic Interpreter, and this is part 2 of this channeled message and tarot reading. It's really not even a tarot reading. It's really, this has all been one big channeled message, and basically I'm walking you all through a saga that I have been channeling for, I want to say the better part of a decade. Yeah, I want to say about the better part of a decade I've been channeling this saga, and this is the work that I have personally been doing. And if you resonate with this, even if you don't resonate with this, some of the things that I channeled in the beginning of this message in the first reading, this is information that I'm sharing that is incredibly important, and I really, really encourage you to stick around. And, you know, I also encourage you to do your own research. You know, I've been studying theology since I was in high school. I think I was in 11th or 12th grade when I started taking comparative religions. I've always been obsessed with history. I've always done really well in the humanities. And I continued taking comparative religion and theology and like world religion and all of this stuff, even like not philosophy, but courses like philosophy. I mean, I even took Russian history classes like in my university education. So I've had a lot of time and sociology or psychology. I've had a lot of time that I've invested, and I mean, these are the kinds of things that I watch on YouTube when I'm like making art, you know what I mean, because this figures very heavily into my art making practice. This is my hyperfixation. Like, I spent my whole life studying this kind of stuff, so I have a lot that I'm drawing from, and I would encourage you to do your own research and find what resonates for you, and then you'll be able to start weaving the tapestry of and become aware within your own awareness, within your own consciousness, connected to your own being, and know what resonates for you. But this is a story that I've been telling, and it is about Lilith and the daughter of 𝗪ṛि𝘁 and 𝗪ṛि𝘁, the gods, the deities, the gods of the underworld, essentially. And this is the story of I guess you want to say the kingdom of darkness. If you want to, you can say that. This idea that, I'm going to turn the camera this way maybe. Yeah, this is better. Yeah, this kingdom of darkness, and it's not really a kingdom of darkness. Let's try this, actually. Can I do this? Oh, that works. Okay, that works. All right. I had to do that because I didn't like the shadow, and that's actually the message. That's exactly what I was getting into, is like it's not the kingdom of darkness, which would actually be a queendom. It is the I guess you want to say the kingdom of shadow. That's really more so what it is than anything else. And I'm hearing the term ritual abuse. What I feel like is The light, so the fully integrated divine feminine is both light and dark, and these people decided to essentially entrap her and use her as an energetic spiritual battery. And this is why we have aspiritualism as the first pillar of colonialism, and then we have cis heteropatriarchy, because as you continue down the 5 pillars of colonialism, you get more and more duality. There's more and more splitting apart of more apartness, more isolation of the self, which is what we were talking about with 𝗪𝗁𝘁/Morgoth. Morgoth continued to isolate further and further and further. And take others with him. And what he did when he came to the earth realm is he corrupted sacred divine beings. He corrupted the elves into orcs. He corrupted the Maiar into Balrogs. I believe it was the Maiar. And then he corrupted, I want to make sure of that actually. He had Sauron, who actually was a necromancer. He was a wizard. He had him corrupt was it the 9 kings of men or 7 kings of men? Either way, he corrupted the kings of men and had them, and they became the Nazgul riders. Yeah, he turned them into basically his slaves. So actually, when Gandalf is fighting the Balrog in the Mines of Moria, that is actually that's a much bigger deal than people understand, because it's kind of like fighting his shadow. He is Maiar, and so is the Balrog. And he ends up dying, but he dies and he kills the Maiar. He kills the Balrog. They both die. But Gandalf is reborn, and when he's reborn as a higher version of himself, because he used to be Gandalf the Grey, and now he's Gandalf the White. So he's even on the same level as the one he looked up to, Saruman. By fighting his shadow self and going through this ego death and this transformation, he becomes a higher consciousness version of himself, gains more power, and is able to do more for the Fellowship of the Ring and for all of those who are fighting to save Middle-earth, versus before, when he also lacked self-confidence, because a big part of the reason why things happened the way they did is because Gandalf didn't trust himself, because he thought, well, I'm Gandalf the Grey and Saruman is so much wiser than me, and he's Saruman the White, he's higher ranking, so he deserves to be the one who is in charge, even though they asked him to be in charge. He didn't have the confidence to take that position, and he had to go through all of that, literally die, so that he could have the confidence. He actually had to be tortured by Saruman to understand. This is what they say, the bigger you are, the harder that you fall, because Saruman was so big for his britches, and also just he was able to be manipulated by Sauron too, and that's the power of a slick tongue, essentially. That's the power of a slick tongue. He knew better, but he was so power hungry that he let it get the better of him. And so, yeah. That is all to say. This isn't the kingdom of darkness. This is, I call it the demonic shadow empire. And it is, you know, this false matrix structure that is created by colonialism, which is an ideological construct that we are indoctrinated into expressing through ourselves. It's not natural. It is a social fact. It is not a true fact because it is actually not natural. So take that and stick it in your pipe and smoke it. Social facts are not true facts. This is a sociological precept. Anyway, so 𝗵 was off by himself, and he started to develop these weird, strange ideas, and because of this, he saw himself as separate, and he started causing problems. And that's what happens when we are in isolation, when we are not in community, you know, when we're not in harmonious union. And he refused to stop, and he did all of this evil stuff. He came to Earth, and he tortured and abused. And in fact, he did this to the lesser Maiar, these angelic beings, deities in their own right, before they made 𝗪dah. So this happened in the ethereal realms before it happened and manifested on Earth. So like I have said before, they didn't know. We knew what was possible when we came to Earth because we know what's happened in higher realms. But there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. And that it's tricky. It's a free will realm. Anyway, the point is, cis heteropatriarchy has objectified the female body, vilified. First, they have vilified femininity, and this is a way to create not just duality but polarity, polar opposites, extremes, binary thinking, us versus them, when that's not the case at all. I think I'll just show you on this paper because I'm gonna get my book of shadows out. I'll show you on my book of shadows because my Apple pen is dead. $13:36 on the clock. So this is the circle. It's the container. You already know where I'm going with this. Yes, of course, we all know this already. Light and dark, balance, da 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 da. Sure, you might know that. But do you know this? The container. I had to draw the container first. That light and dark energy, the yin and the yang, rather, energy, is contained within this, which is dark also, just FYI. It's contained within that. The container happens first. First, in fact, oops. My apologies, y'all. The container happens first. This is hard. I really don't like this camera stand, but whatever. But actually, what exists first is the blank page, tabula rasa. Then we have the container. Then we have a split, but it's still the same thing. It's just a new form of perceiving it. It is perceiving itself. And then we have this. And these are all new forms of consciousness. This is the first form of consciousness, the highest form of consciousness. Well, actually, this blank page is the highest form of consciousness. And even just not even having that. You know what I mean? So the first consciousness is the circle. And then it wants to know itself from a different perspective. And it becomes this. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, let's get to know ourselves a little bit deeper. And because we did this, it is a mirror. It has to mirror itself because it always has to be in balance. So then it's like this. Okay, well, since you did that, now we've got to do this. Because of the balance. And it doesn't look like it is balance. It doesn't look the same. And that's what you think that the mirror image is. But it's not really. It doesn't look, as I said, it doesn't look the same. But it's not meant to. It's not meant to be the same. It's meant to be different. Because that's how balance is created. But all of this is contained within this. This is the whole. And this is why I say with astrology, stop thinking about things broken up into these 12 pie slices. It is a spectral energy. It is a spectrum. These hard linear delineations that people try to create is a byproduct of this two-dimensional thinking, because a lot of people don't even think three-dimensionally. A lot of people are stuck in binary thinking, which is two-dimensional thinking. But so, unfortunately, there was an aberration that occurred from the barbarity and the brutality, which perhaps wasn't assumed that that would happen, but it did. And what ended up happening is a power struggle, because they saw one another and they thought that they should be mirroring, but didn't understand that, oh, just because we're different. And I also want to point out this idea that actually they were, they had that the original two beings were maybe one being that had both sets of reproductive organs. That is definitely something that scholars kick around. And then they separated and had two separate sets of organs. I will say that the Aboriginal Australians, 1909 on the clock, Aboriginal Australians believe that there were two women and two females and one male, and they were siblings, of course. And I'm not going to get into that story, but I think that's worth noting. But so when this desire for power came into being, it was very much like the rings of power, you know. One wanted to dominate the other. And we know that Lilith wanted to be equal. It's just crazy to me that she could be the one who's being demonized. Because it's like, she wants to be equal. He wants to make her subservient. Obviously, something's wrong with him. What's wrong with him is that he is of a lower form of consciousness. And I actually kind of feel like she shouldn't have wanted to be equal with him. I think that she probably wanted to like teach him how to be divine, but he was a brute. And he was of a lower form of consciousness. He, I guess, was just like survival mode or something. I don't really know why he wanted to dominate her, but he wanted to dominate her, and he's the one who attempted to force his will upon her, which is actually, you know, I would say that that is grounds for being cursed karmically, because you're trying to sexually assault and force your will upon a literal child of God, like a literal child of God's, you know what I mean? Anyway, so this all being said, I'm just sitting here wondering, like, I came over here to do these readings and then I started channeling this message, and I'm just like, when am I gonna get to go to sleep? But I gotta get these messages off. So 2124 might be significant. It's 100 years from now. So you definitely want to be thinking about what you want the world to be like 100 years from now, and ask yourself, in everything that you do, am I working towards that reality? Anyway, they demonize the feminine and objectify the female form to use it as biological machinery. Why do they do this? Well, there are plenty of people who have plenty ideas about this. Some people believe that the women of Earth were being kidnapped and used by extraterrestrials and used to make a hybridized race of workers. I don't know if I believe that. I don't even care, actually. The point is that that is when marriage as a form of enslaving females specifically and buying and selling them from their father to their new husband, that's when that practice came into use. And isn't it interesting that this story with the God of the heavens, who some might call Yahweh, but some might also call Yahweh, sold, there's this idea that he gave his daughter, oh no, let me run it back, excuse me, sorry. Jupiter gave his daughter in a secret pact that her mother didn't know about, Persephone, to Pluto, god of the underworld. Huh. And Hecate would look after her in the underworld and make sure she was okay. Interesting, right? Very interesting. What I'm picking up is she agreed to come here as a warrior, is what I'm picking up. And I'm gonna shuffle from another deck because we're getting a different story coming out here. They say that Lilith is the first witch. She's the mother of all witches. Cunning women. Anybody who is tapped into the unseen is seen as being witchy. Anybody who is magical, like y'all will be like, oh, that's a witch. Maybe they're not a witch. Maybe they're a shaman. Maybe they're not a shaman, but I do want to point out that the shaman's path is marked and activated by trauma. Trauma relates to Pluto. We talked about how these stories are very much about transmuting trauma, or what happens to us when our consciousness flees to the subconscious and starts creating demons, maybe creating shadows. maybe it's that story of the first R where we have Eve, who is Zoe, and Zoe's the higher version of Eve. Zoe means life. She comes to Earth, and she is Eve. She breathes life into Adam first, and then she becomes Eve. And yeah, these powers and principalities, these cosmic powers, archons, are they're gonna assault her, and she goes up into the heavens and leaves a carbon copy behind. There's a parallel here, right? Like I said, there's a parallel here. That if we think about this in the terms of psychology, she flees from reality, the earthly realm, reality, breaks off a part of herself, her divine self, goes back into the heavens where it is protected and kept safe, and all that's there is a carbon copy. All that's there is a vessel. All that's there is a husk, if you will. Over, even though all of my screens are, of course, locked and sealed, but anyway. Two of Wands. This is really about coming into integration. Whoever this story is for, you've been through this journey and it's been hell on earth. You've literally lived hell on earth, chosen ones, so that you could transmute this aberration of the DNA that started with the first R, the first abuses, and it had to be resolved in the higher realms and take place on earth, so that it would no longer, because it had overwhelmingly become a hell realm, which it's not, actually. It's the end of this suffering. It's the end of separation. It's the end of all of the sickness that was born and bred in isolation. 𝗪̇ः𝘁. These sisters came together, and they had the best intentions, but it descended into something sinister and evil. And not all witches are this way. Not all who are called witches are this way. Even after the witch hunts, even after colonization robbed us of our ability to safely practice our own spiritual practices, even after they robbed us of the thing that foregrounds our indigenous societies and cultures. Why do you think that so many cultures are sick and suffering? Because they are no longer foregrounded in the spiritual principles of their ancestors and their people. Now they are foregrounded. They are the foundation of their culture is a religion, institution, a system that is built upon blood magic and ritual abuse, child exploitation. I grew up in the church, and even before I really started studying occultism and magic, I realized something was off. Because I was just like, this is the same as ritual magic. The lighting, the ceremony of it all. Like I would do crucifer and acolyte, which means I would carry the cross, or I would carry the flame and light the candles on the altar. And you'd have to wear, like, that's generally a child's job, and you'd have to wear a white, an all-white outfit, robe. And in the choir, they would also have to wear their special robes. And let's say, like, during Advent, for instance, there are special candles of special colors that they use, and the colors represent something. In Lent, there are special candles that they used, and the colors had a special representative meaning, and every week we would add one more candle that we would light, okay? And then obviously the pastor is the person reading the scripture. You're all praying together, chanting together, singing together. Like, what about that is not ritual magic? What about that is not ritual magic? Like, even then it was so obvious and clear to me. And I realized these people are not praying to the same God as me. And this is why I said I don't practice institutional religion, because whatever they're praying to, I'm sorry, but that's not my God. Listen. This relates to that person that I was talking about, LG. They wanna, okay, so these feminines who are the W's of Babylon, specifically I'm picking up certain women in the media who hypersexualize themselves, and not all of them know what they're doing. They're doing it, but they don't know the implications of what they're doing. A lot of them. Some of them. And the further along they go, the more they might essentially, the more okay you are with doing the depraved things, the further along you're allowed to go. And if you get to a certain point where you're like, I can't do this, then you're not going to be allowed to go any further. And that's true of the Masons as well. Okay, building a new world order. Listen, my granddaddy was the head Freemason of my country, so I'm not here for anybody trying to argue with me about this shit. And he's one of my main ancestors that I interact with. Thank you very much. This is the building of the false matrix. And here's what this has to do with the Three of Cups. So the divine feminine was objectified and enslaved and imprisoned to be used as a spiritual battery in order to manifest this, because they couldn't do it on their own. They couldn't do it on their own. Inverting her magics. And because of all of this abuse, I'm feeling it in my womb. It feels like people being forced to terminate pregnancies. Oh my God, it's just like, the forced sterilization of indigenous women, Black women in the United States. And this has been going on up until, it is probably still going on, actually. But, I used to work on a documentary about this prison where the prison doctor was sterilizing women against their will. And usually they were in jail, obviously, but he would especially do this to Black women and women of indigenous descent, so Latina women, you know what I mean, poor women, this kind of stuff. He did end up going to jail, but yeah, this is the history of eugenics in this country. And this is something that also came from, people think that it came from the Holocaust. It didn't actually come from the Holocaust. Actually, eugenics started in the United States of America, and Hitler saw what they were doing with eugenics, and he loved it so much that he adopted it. There are literal quotes about this. I worked on a documentary about this. I've done so much research about this. Hitler saw this and he was like, nobody's doing better work with eugenics than the United States of America. And I'm telling you, like, the Rockefeller Foundation was supporting projects on eugenics. Like, this was other, like, major Stanford University, like, I think even Harvard, Yale, like, all of these major institutions were participating in eugenics, and obviously they supported forced sterilization. And it wasn't only of black women, indigenous women, and women of color. It was also of like white people that they felt were like bringing down the stock of the white gene pool. So like poor white people, Appalachians, people like that, the Melungians, people like that. They felt like those people should be sterilized. People with disabilities, they felt that they should be sterilized. Yo, it's crazy. It's disgusting, the history of forced sterilization in this country. And that this country is so bad that Hitler took the things that we were doing here in this country to use them in what he was doing in the Third Reich in Nazi Germany. And then do you want to know what this country did? Operation Paperclip. They took all those scientists that they found to be of value from Nazi Germany and brought them to America and placed them in high-ranking positions. And these were the people who were doing the CIA project of MK Ultra and things like this. I wouldn't say that these are necessarily declassified documents, because this is information that they never wanted to get out. But you can, I mean, there are NPR episodes about this. You know what I mean? Outside of Wikipedia, you can find information on this relatively easily. I know I did when I was working on that documentary. And so, you know, they practiced, they tested. The practice of gynecology in America was pioneered by experimenting on the bodies of black women against their will. This is what I'm picking up on. I am hearing fire crackling. I feel so emotional as I say this. I'm hearing women screaming. Trigger warning here. Everything's a fucking trigger warning. Don't watch my videos if you're like, if you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. But I'm hearing women screaming as they are being burned alive as witches. And I'm hearing, this happened longer than you thought. This happened longer than you thought. I have a friend who grew up in Oklahoma, and she said the town that she grew up in was super evil. And she experienced CSA by a family member there, and she was like, I think there was probably a lot of trafficking also going on in that town. But yeah, like I'm feeling like the buying and selling of particularly women, particularly little girls, including little boys, like I said, you know, robbing them of their innocence to feed this entity. I'm not even going to call it I'm going to call it an entity. And there are sisterhoods that have been working against these dark organizations, but they're not like famous people. They're not people who you'd be like, oh my God, that person's so powerful. No, it's us. It's like the Chosen One Collective. It's like the earth seeds, the star seeds. Like, what I'm seeing is a Celtic woman with long white hair. I think that this is a woman that I've seen. She's like basically a keeper of indigenous Celtic practices, and I've seen her videos, and she talks about like their indigenous practices, like the Druidic practices, which are very similar to my ancestral African practices. And I'm seeing this woman, and she has like long white hair, and she's dressed like a hippie. I grew up in the 90s, so I'm like thinking about like at the turn of the millennium, like just like this hippie lady with like a patchwork shirt. She probably looks like she'd be not even an art teacher, like she works at a glass blowing shop. And it's not new age. It's not new age. It is our ancient practices. And this is why I say, like, grounding our ancient ancestral indigenous practices for the now age, because everything has to progress and evolve, you know what I mean? And so these people who are of the light, like, yeah, some of them are in high-ranking positions of power, of course they have to be. Like, some people go into these, I mean, like those of us who incarnated into karmic families, you know what I mean? It's that kind of idea. And sometimes the karmics, they're just like regular low-grade karmics, but then sometimes you have like really powerful evil people, like evil beings that incarnate into your family to sabotage you. But that's over now. That's what I'm saying. That's over now. Because these bloodlines, like I said, I think in the last read, in the previous part, the first part, this is a civil war. This is a battle between one family, essentially, because everything comes from the same place. Like, Morgoth, Melkor, was an Ainur, just like the other Ainur. He was Valar. And he went and he tortured Maiar to turn them into Balrogs to make them slaves for himself. He tricked the Ainur that fell under his spell, like when they started singing, they were all singing harmoniously. He came with a discordant tone, and the ones closest to him also started doing that discordant tone. They couldn't help it because they're just harmonizing. This is one family. So when we have, like I said, Gandalf fighting the Balrog in the mines of Moria, he is fighting his own blood, his own kin, his own species. When they are fighting the orcs, when you have elves fighting orcs, that's what that is. It is a civil war. So if you are of these bloodlines, it's like, this is why it's like, oh, snakes are bad, dragons are bad. No, some of them are bad. The red dragon, there are tons of dragons. There's the white dragon. There's the red dragon. You know, there's all kinds of, the golden dragon, all kinds of dragons. Dragons are aeons, they're primordial beings. And yeah, you want to talk about the house of the red dragon. I'm not going to get into that. There is a really great TikTok that explains the house of the red dragon that I will drop in the info box or the description box below. But yeah, they're basically turncoats. They betrayed their family, they betrayed their mission, they betrayed their kin. because they were sick and they wanted power. And it was inevitable that this would happen because it happened in the higher realms. And so, you know, we had to fight in the higher realms, and we also have to fight in the lowest realms to be able to effectively break apart this karma, this fractal, if you will. So, you know, a lot of these people who are doing this fight, it's you, it's me, it's like the hippie old lady at the glass blowing shop, you know, and you can tell when you've met soul family. I want to cry right now because it's just like, these are the meek who are inheriting the earth as God's kingdom is being built, because the storm is passing over and the war has been won. And these are the people who've been bullied all of their lives, who've been ostracized, who've been picked on. You know, these are the people, as I said, the people that honestly I would say Lilith is protecting. Because the thing that I don't want to say, but I feel like I have to say this, is that even those evil sisterhoods, those evil covens, they became that way for a reason, and it's because of the abuse. You know, there is a popular personality on the internet, and she basically talks about like being in toxic feminine energy and being in Jezebel energy in order to have success in the material realm and live a good life. But it's like, you're not living a good life. You are not in union with your divine counterpart. You are not experiencing harmony at all. Your life actually sucks. It doesn't matter that you have money and you don't have to work. Like, your life actually does not seem happy at all. You don't seem like you've healed at all. Like, you seem low vibrational AF. Like, to me, you're due for another Kundalini awakening, but you're so afraid to go through that Kundalini awakening because you don't want to, because you're afraid of not having this material support that you want and that you're addicted to, because you're still being controlled by the ego. That's what I'm picking up on. And so either they were, whatever reason that they have for going dark, they have been overpowered now because old earth, new earth are splitting apart, and we're leaving that old stuff behind as we go through the looking glass from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. That stuff, that the remnants of that age are being left behind in the age of Pisces. That shadow stuff that like tried to latch onto us, that final boss energy is what I'm picking up on. We are coming out of there. We're coming out of there. We're divesting from that. I am so certain I have on my iPad 303 on the clock. Well, first of all, I want y'all to look at this. This setup sucks. Sorry, guys. Anyway, this, I know it looks terrible. I did this in a reading I did for somebody, but this is the mirror, the infinity. We are in an 8-year Jubilee year, going through that looking glass from the death paradigm, the death matrix, green flash. I've talked about this before, like in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, into the land of the living. That the universe is shaped like, the known universe is shaped like a lens. It is convex. So look at a lens from the side. That's the infinity symbol. That's an 8, right? It's kind of shaped like a Pringle. You see this is shaped like a Pringle, convex lens. That is how we see things. It's the lens of our eye as well. You go through the looking glass and then you come back out, and then that's how karma works. And you can go up, you can go higher, or you can go lower. This is a really long download, but essentially these organizations, I said that someone called LG was perpetrating against the collective, because what I want you to understand is that the collective, they don't care about the individual members of the collective per se. Some of them might matter, okay, I guess a little bit, but they want to destroy the collective. So, I mean, it's powers and principalities. That means that this is not individual people. These are like higher, they are beings of a higher consciousness. Being of a higher consciousness doesn't mean that you're not evil. Look at Morgoth. Okay, so they're channeling down through they have their own collectives, right? Just like you might be part of the LLF collective. You might be part of, oh, this is how they talk about it in Ifa, Yoruba's Ifa. Like, you might be a child of Oshun. And Oshun is the child of her father, who, is it Ogun? I'm sorry, I don't know the names of, I don't know, anyway, because that's not actually, anyway, I'm not gonna get into it, but Oshun is the child of a higher ranking deity. And ultimately, there is a supreme unknowable deity at the top of all of these pantheons. And it's actually, you know, we can say it's the cosmic mother, but it's actually not. It's that integrated form that I showed you. That container is feminine, though, but the spirit, listen, they're integrated. I'm not gonna do that whole polarity thing. Sorry, y'all. I'm like channeling and arguing with myself, but like, they're an integrated form in divine union, and they can experience duality and work together as interdependent partners in union, as opposed to trying to one-up one another. And this is what the work that we've been doing to transmute this separation. And so what I'm getting here is that these people are beyond just minions. Like, yes, they are minions. They are of the soul group. Let's put it this way. I know Morgoth is a character, but there's a parallel here. They are of the soul group of the Devourer. There's another name that we can use other than that one that I refuse to use. I refuse to use it because I'm actually encouraged not to, in order to keep myself safe. Apophis, the Apophis demon. And Apophis, what I downloaded is he is the one who possessed all those people and turned the priesthood into evil, and he is the one running the show. Manifester of darkness, invoker of the eater. He is evil, and yeah, he is an Egyptian entity, and the father of all vampires is what I'm hearing. The Egyptian, they don't even call him a god, they say Egyptian spirit of evil, darkness, and destruction. These people are they either serve 𝗵𝗵 or they are of his soul group. And he's essentially like Morgoth. These people are essentially like, I'm hearing the Battle of Seven Armies. They're like Sauron, Saruman, Grima Wormtongue. Okay? They are like, unfortunately, some of these people are like the Nazgul. They didn't know what they were signing up for. They wanted power, and that ended up being them selling their souls, essentially, selling their lives. They didn't know what they were signing up for. And some of these people, it's like they're from a bloodline and they're from a lineage, but they didn't know what was happening in terms of their initiation until it was upon them. And they just are like, oh, gotta make the best of a terrible situation. He's been usurped though, and part of that, yeah, he's been usurped. Like I said, we've gone through the looking glass. When she goes down the rabbit hole, and they're like, oh, we're all mad here. She goes down the looking hole, and they're like, we're all mad here. Because we've been in the land of death, in the shadow. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Most High, Divine Creator, forever. And I've been talking about this. Don't stop before the miracle. Don't stop climbing that mountain, Mount Olympus, until you get there. Because there is waiting for you, I shall dwell in the house of the Most High, Divine Creator, forever. You get to go back home. And you get to live your best life because of the work that you did when you were in bondage, when you were in captivity. And you made it through the wilderness. Somehow I made it through. Didn't know how lost I was until I found you. This and that is what I'm channeling is this your higher consciousness found you in the wilderness. It was activated. Part of it was activated through destiny. And part of it was activated by potentially meeting your twin flame. And the light turned on, whether or not you knew it at the time. And you started this journey through the wilderness. And despite all the pitfalls, you still made it through to the other side, despite all of the stuff that they were throwing at you. Like I channeled, I honestly feel like, just think about whose career is being ruined right now. Who's being humiliated right now? And these are people who work for or have some connection to LG. Think about the people who are running the show behind the scenes, the people who are actually making the money, who actually are brokering power, who are actually considered even close to, they're the ones in the rooms with the powerful people of other industries that make big decisions about what happens. They're the grand architects, if you will. You might recognize that language. They stole these magics and inverted them for evil. And those lower vibrational, those who betrayed their kin did this because they were like, if you can't beat them, join them. And these architects, these controllers, these programmers cannot do it without those who betrayed their kin. They're psychopaths. They're psychopaths. I don't even want to say that these are relatives because I don't feel like they are. I feel like I'm just looking at this Black Sun Project, I think it's called, from the Phantom Matrix. That's where they come from. And that's why they had to make a false matrix. To have you create your own prison in your mind. They learned how to do that. They've been knowing how to do that, but they've learned how to do it with more advanced technology. They broker deals to get this advanced technology, is what I'm hearing. They brokered deals to get this advanced technology. You'd be surprised, even like some of this technology, it's like, this isn't even advanced, it's actually trash. It could be so much better. Like, you shouldn't, this isn't advanced if it's destroying the planet, you know what I mean? But they want you to think that it's advanced. That's a red herring to throw you off from understanding that decolonization will actually bring us into alignment with the most advanced civilizations that, you know, exist. They don't want that, these architects. Okay. Some of these, yeah, it's like so much of this darkness has happened, so much of, it's just heartbreak. People's hearts are broken. And this is what I was talking about, like the heart chakra being broken from within. And so what happens when a child experiences CSA, especially from a family member, that is an easy way to break their root and sacral chakras. And then you infiltrate it with 𝗵𝗱. That's what they do. And that's why they have this culture of estual violence. That's the way to break them. And it breaks their connection to the earth because they start to dissociate, and it breaks their connection to the divine because they feel like they've been victimized so badly. A lot of people, that's how it happens. And then they can control your chakra system, and that they can control you. Your consciousness, part of your consciousness breaks off and flees into the subconscious, where you leave it and you don't want to interact with it because you're so ashamed, you don't know how to deal with the trauma of what happened to you. And so shadows start to coalesce and they become monsters, and those are your demons. Disgusting. Fucking hate this. This makes me sick. But 8 of Pentacles, what I say, it's an 8-year. All of this is changing. It's a jubilee year. Because you have integrated yourself, you've done the shadow work, you've done the soul retrieval work to go back and get those fragmented parts of yourselves and reintegrate and exercise, cast out that shadow, cast out that 𝗵 energy. You've done the work of fighting with yourself. Ego versus spirit. to recognize that you are a divine, sacred child of God and that you are loved regardless of anything that you may have been told. And so you've come into sovereignty. And you're about to come out of hiding. Yep. What I say, you're about to come out of hiding. This Nine of Wands is kind of throwing me. But look, this is a red dragon in the Two of Wands. And look, what's in its tail is the earth. But this person's sitting on top of the red dragon. You have mastered. You are the master, and you will bring them to heal. You might identify with the white dragon. You might identify with Kuan Yin, Christ consciousness, essentially. Divine feminine Christ, divine masculine Christ. You will bring them to heal. And you will awaken the crown, the high heart chakra. That's your job, to bring your pure divine essence and be your authentic original self. Why do you think that they try so hard to control us and make us basic ass bitches? You bring that light, that Christ light, that purity, because you never lost that pure soul, no matter what, that childlike wonder, no matter what happened to you, or if you did, it was reawakened. And some of our family did get lost along the way, but you can tell that they're family and that they're sick and they're brokenhearted. It's time to forgive them. You don't need to do anything to try and convince them. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to say anything. Just be yourself, be in your light, and that's going to heal the inflammation of these people's wounds, and it's going to help them to do the work to awaken their heart chakra again. And that's going to be a lot of ego deaths, as 𝗪cie𝗀𝗃 says. The energy of death is like, it comes with green, which makes sense because it's also life is green. So when the energy of death is around, you're going to see green, is what she said. And that's why I said green flash, from when they, in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, they have to go and get Jack from the locker, and they have to flip over in the boat, and then there's the green flash. They have to flip the boat over in the water through the looking glass to return to the land of the living after they go to the land of the dead to retrieve Jack. So he has what they need, which is the compass, which is the heart. It leads to the heart's true desire. Everyone wants the compass. This green flash. They'll go through a lot of ego deaths just like you did, but you're the way shower, and you're showing them a way out. And there's so many different people with so many different stories. That's why we need so many different Christ conscious beings, Christed beings, sovereign beings who have restored their soul after they sacrificed you and your purity and robbed you of your childhood. Even if you, and this is some of you, I feel like a lot of this, it has to do with the sexual assault. You're not uncertain anymore, and neither is the world. The world is ready for you now. This is Hermit in reverse and the Two of Swords in reverse. The world is ready for you now. You are the master of your domain. Remember in Seinfeld, like, are you the master of your domain? If they masturbated, if they self-pleasured, then they were out and they had to pay up. Who can actually transcend their base instincts and be the master of their domain? But you were able to, and you're setting an example for others, and they desperately did not want that to happen. So yes, they have been attacking you. If you've heard readers be like, oh, like, it's someone of really like big authority. They could have said like it was famous people, they could have said it was politicians, and you might be like, people might be like, I don't believe that. I'm telling you, my grandfather was the president of my country. Before that, he was vice president for 22 years. I come from a political dynasty. It's not that hard to believe. My college best friend's dad is like, he was really good friends with Vladimir Putin. I don't know if they're still friends. We're not best friends anymore. But yeah, like, I've been involved with famous people. I've talked about this before. I've had proximity to the elite, as they say, these upper echelon, as they say, but like, upper echelon brokers of power. But you can't really be that high vibrational. You can't really be that powerful if you're doing shit like this, you feel me? But I've been in close proximity to these people my entire life. I'm not kidding. It's not actually that hard to believe. Believe it. If you needed someone to tell you, here's the confirmation. You may have been being gang stalked. Back during lockdown it's been 4 years since the uprising. As of this weekend, it's been 4 years. And look at what's going on in the world again. Same time, right? It's been 4 years, and back then, organizers, activists, community leaders, I would not go out. My ancestors were not allowing me to go out after dark, and I wasn't allowed to go to protests because organizers and activists were being kidnapped and turning up unalived. It wasn't just one, it was many. A lot of people, a lot of radicals were coming up unalived. I knew myself, if I get arrested, I'm not leaving that jailhouse alive. It's a really big rank and it's a really big ranking that you have, and you need to understand that. Stop sleeping on yourself just because other people, 555 on my screen, other people are too stupid. I'm not going to say too stupid. They're too ignorant and also too low ranking and too, they don't have proximity to power. Stop sleeping on yourself because those people who don't know their ass from their elbow are saying, oh, that's unbelievable, that's crazy. It's not crazy, actually. It's really not. Take it from somebody whose family, our phones have been tapped since the 70s. It's not crazy. Y'all really just sit here and like refuse to believe proven facts. MK Ultra and Operation Paperclip are proven to be factual. That really happened. And y'all will sit here and listen to people say you're crazy and not understand that actually they're crazy for not believing facts. What you think is like your ego death is actually you being reborn, and you are coming into divine union with your counterpart. These mofos haven't been able to win. And those people that y'all think are priestesses, these concubines, if you will, they are. And I want to say something also, is like, some people, like, I did a reading earlier where I was talking about, I had the Empress out here, but anyways, and look at this. Pan and shadow, the shadow feminine. Pied Piper being controlled by base instincts, being controlled by your body, being controlled by your karma, and they're using music to do it. Unique verse, one song, the Ainur sang the universe into being. Don't ever look up to these people, because honestly, it's more likely that you'd have to look down to be able to see them. Trust me. They thought that they were up. They thought that they had won. They thought that they could use our magics against us. Little did they know, it wasn't going down like that. Never again. Never, ever, ever again. You are the master of your domain, and the meek shall inherit the earth, and that's what the fuck they're doing. That's what's happening now. They were using these W's of Babylon, their manifestation power, their wombs, in order to manifest darkness. These people, they can't even have children, really. This is why so many of them have to get in vitro fertilization and use surrogates and stuff like that, because they can't. They have a black hole. They're succubi. They have a black hole in their uterus. They can't create anything original. They have to steal from everybody. Think about who you hear is constantly stealing creative property and intellectual property from other people, specifically smaller designers or smaller people with a smaller career than them. Think about who those people are. Yeah, those are the ones. Think about who you hear has a ghostwriter. Those are the ones. Because some of these W's of Babylon, they are they're in male bodies. Men can also be W's. And that's why some of them are so obsessed with copulating with S workers. They know that's what they are too. Unfortunately, some of these people are being trafficked against their own will. But it's over now. It's the dawn of a new age. It's going to come with a lot of grief as the old dies out and the new is being born. But it is for the best as we step into the unknown. I love you all truly and deeply. This energy is healing, and it's being channeled through you, this new age that's coming into being birthed. I love you all truly and deeply. Remember to stay in your sovereignty. Remember to stay in your integrity. Remember to stay in your pillar of light. And never ever just assume that because somebody might look like they came from humble beginnings, or they might look humble, you know what I mean? They might be the odd one out, the odd sheep, the black sheep, the scapegoat. Don't ever assume that that person is, you know, lower than you, because really they might have a very big spiritual ranking, a very high spiritual ranking upon them. And so they don't care about vanity. They don't care about how they're being perceived by the material minded within the illusion. They care about the spiritual values. Okay, what is the word I'm trying to use here? Virtues. They want to live a virtuous life. All this backstabbing, this heartbreak is ending because you're no longer self-betraying. You're no longer self-betraying. You're no longer being controlled by magic, because you're higher ranking than that. You've come into your power. You've integrated with yourself, and you are coming into divine union here. It's all been healed. It's all over. It's all over. We're moving forward. It's not going to feel like work. It's going to feel like just creating. just creating the fruits of our labor really paying off. And it's going to feel like pure divine magic. Okay? I love you all truly and deeply. Stay true. Book a reading with me. Book a session with me. Book self-sovereignty coaching sessions with me. And, you know, purchase my workbooks. I am trying to figure out how to make 1, 2, 3 on the timer, 1, 2, 3, 3, 0 on the timer, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3 on the timer, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I am trying to, I have some things in the work, but go to my shop and you can get all of that good stuff. I love you all truly and deeply. I'll see you on the flip side.